We are now getting to the end of Module 4, Written Communication. And in Part 5, I'm just going to look at some of the other workplace documents that we weren't able to cover yet. I'm not going to do it in detail. You will see that on some of the slides I've actually indicated to you, go to the textbook for more information. So let's get going. The first document that you must know how to use in the workplace is the memo. Okay, now memo is a short internal office document. Please only ever cover one topic when you are working with a memo. In some of the assignments that I've seen from ICB, they will ask you to rewrite the memo, or they will ask you what is wrong with the memo. And often it is the fact that the person who wrote the memo are trying to cover more than one topic at a time. That's not what the memo is for. A memo covers one topic and it is very short, and it must grab the attention, and people must be able and wanting to read it. So the format is very specific. And you see the format here on the right. There is a to and a from and a CC, much like you would expect to see in an email. The date, the subject, and then just a little short message. Okay. Today, I know that we use emails more and more, or we use SMSs, or we use WhatsApps or any other short message app for internal communications, as the message can get there in seconds. I would still advise that the use of a memo is not redundant yet, because if you have a memo template, then it is something that you can quickly fill in and send out to people. And then if you are going to email it to the employees, I would suggest you rather email it as an attachment. You can go around, and if it's a small office, and physically give the memo to 4 people by hand so that they can read it. I remember when I was in the police, we didn't had memos per se, but we had standing orders that came through in the forms of a memo. And when we were on parade, those were read and then signed off. So if you get together, if you have small meetings during the day, or maybe even at the beginning of the day, then the memos can be covered in that. I did say you must see the textbook for the advantages of email, also the format and how to use it. I've said enough about that now. And in the textbook, you'll always also see more on forms and questionnaires. Forms and questionnaires are very specific and not really covered in detail enough in this course that I can go into it right now. Okay, so let's move on. So there you have an email outline, or it's really just a screenshot of an email that was sent. And you will see a lot of things here. This is clearly in Outlook. You will see a lot of things here. So when you start with a new message, the message tab will be open, and it will automatically give you the opportunity to say who you are sending it to, who you want to CC it to, who you want to be CC'd for. Often, if you are sending it to a list of people, you don't want them to see each other. Then you can maybe just address it to somebody in your own organization. Then you have this entire list of people that you have there, but you are only CCing them. So just make sure that you are not sharing information that shouldn't be shared. Okay, so BCC is nice, because at least then the other people can't see that you emailed from a list, and you can perhaps create the impression that it is very specific. Okay, so also in Outlook and any other email application, you will have a space to put in the subject, and then you will simply type out your message. You will see here that at the end of the slide, it says Lindu, Group Director of Academics and Customer Relations. Now that was an email signature that she used at the time. You can see here at the top that there's a couple of things that you can do. You can attach a file. You can attach an item like maybe a presentation or a video. Most often, though, you'll only add the link and not the entire thing. And then, of course, there you see that there is a place there for signature. So if you click on that, you can have one or more signatures preloaded, and then that's the signature that you choose will come at the bottom of your email. So now remember, we've had a look at memos. Now we're having a very quick and cursory look at emails. If you ever do office admin, you will do emails in more detail, even if you are on the accounting program. When you get to office computing, you will also do a lot more of email in that subject. So what about reports? Well, do you even know what a report is? It's a formal document that is informative, objective, and structured. So often what will happen is, after a meeting took place, the meeting will say, okay, we are now going to have a subcommittee, or we are going to select a couple of people. You go out, investigate something for us, and then come back and report. And therefore, we use the report to evaluate, to investigate, or to make recommendations. Okay. This is not a novel. Please, guys, don't use colorful language. Get straight to the point. Use clear headings, effective numbering, bullet points, and uncluttered layout. As you will see here in my example on the right, there's a lot of white space. White space is your friend. Okay, not just in a report, but also in an email. The moment there is too much going on anything like email, a slide, I think there's going a bit, perhaps on the slide of mine, there's a bit too much going on, and it would have been better to put this on 2 slides. Too late now. But you can see there was a here where they are saying, okay, we have several options. We considered the first option, we considered the second option, we considered the third option. These are our findings, and then you come to a conclusion. Okay, and the conclusion was we are going to adapt methodology 2, because while methodology 1 is the strongest, maybe it falls outside the scope of our budget, and then you cannot do that. But okay, a cover page is essential, and a content page if you're going to have a long report. At some point in my life, I was a work study officer, and some of those work study investigation or efficiency studies can be 100 pages. So what you will then do is you will have a cover page. You will also have a management summary where you are summarizing your main findings and your recommendation, so that the person reading it doesn't have to go through the document in detail, or they can, but if they want to go to a specific point, you have your cover page and they know where in the document they have to go and look for it. And then often at the end of a report, there will be a section where the people who have read the document can also give comments of their own or sign off if that's what is required. So giving feedback regarding a report is often done using PowerPoint slides. Now, we've talked about presentations before. Just go back and have a look at that. You don't, as I said, go to the textbook, but you actually don't have to go to the textbook. You can just go to the previous video that I did on presentations. There you have 2 types of reports. The one is the IVFC framework, where you are stating your intentions, who, what, when, why must it happen, how, who gave you the brief, who said you must even do the investigation, what's the purpose of this thing, and so forth. Then the values, where you are saying, you know, we have certain values. Say, for instance, one of the values that you have in the company is we will not lay anybody off, even if the company is going through a difficult time. Then your intention will be to save money because it's now COVID, or it's load shedding, or something else is going wrong. But your values said you are not prepared to lay anybody off. So your values really set your framework, and you cannot do anything outside of the framework. Then the focus, and then the content, or the context rather, in which it takes place. And you can present this as a little booklet, or you can use PowerPoint slides or whatever. The next one is the A3 report. And really, this is a report that is on 1 page, but the page is not an A4, it's an A3, so that you can have one big picture. It's a short report, but it gives you one big picture of what it was that you investigated, and you can then hand it out, people can have a look at it, or you can project it and people can have a look at it and move on from there. So that's as far as reports are concerned. Then, of course, we get to something very important. Those are meeting documents. Now, before a meeting can take place, you have to give notice of the meeting. So you will have to inform the people that you want in the meeting before of the meeting a reasonable time. So if it's going to be something major like an annual general meeting or even a special general meeting, that notice will go out 2 weeks before the time. Okay. But of course, if it is something that is required immediate attention, it's going to be a short meeting, then you can possibly get away with giving people notice a day or so in advance. Now, that can be an electronic notice, or it can be a notice that you posted, or it can even be one that you are displaying in a commons area, so that everybody knows that the meeting is going to take place, what it is about, and where it is, and how long it's going to last, all of those things. Then the agenda is, of course, the list of things to be done at the meeting. Now, often, and I would actually advise it, is that you put a short agenda as part of your notice, so that people don't only get to the meeting and then the agenda is handed out. Okay. Also, you can even have a standardized agenda if it is a weekly meeting on which you are going to discuss specific points every week. And then, of course, the minutes is the official unbiased record of decisions and discussions. Okay, so there are a lot of other information about meetings in your textbook. There's an entire list of meeting terms, and those meeting terms do come up from time to time. The way to get accustomed to meetings is not to study it from the textbook. Join some forum where meetings is regularly held. If it's not in your workplace, then start a regular meeting, even if it is a meeting where the learners can get together and discuss the issues. So because you only will get accomplished at doing meetings, chairing meetings, taking the minutes, if you are actually physically participating in a meeting. Okay. This one is possibly important for all of you who are still students and who are still learning, and or even you are doing an apprenticeship or learnership in a company, and you know that they are not going to keep you. So this is the curriculum vitae, or the CV. Now just look at the principles here. It's the first impression when you try to get an interview. So your CV will get you the interview. Your personal skills will mean whether you get the job or not. But if your CV is not impressive, then it will not give you the interview. Okay. The idea is to interest an employer in your skills, interest, and attitude. Okay. It must be short, simple, and factual. Okay. So, like the idea here is that you have a single page or one-page CV. I'm going to say something about that now. It must be up to date, guys. Because if it's not up to date, it's not going to state what you most recently did. And then it still says that you are working at one place when you've already left there, or it's got old information, or maybe one of your references have died or something like that, and you don't want that. It must include the following: your personal information. And personal information is vitally important because the people must be able to get you for the interview. So make sure that your email address and your telephone number is actually 100% correct. Okay. So the next thing is your education. That's all your qualifications, everything that you've did. And with education, you can also include your skills. You'll see here we included skills. And then, of course, your work experience. So also, I would say that you shouldn't have just one CV that you send out everywhere. You should have a standard CV, but every time you apply for a new job, you must be able to make a couple of tweaks to that CV. And that is because in the job advertisement, there will often be specific requirements. So if you know you meet the requirements, but you're not using the exact words on your CV that was in the ad, then change the wording on your CV so that it can be exactly as it is required in the advertisement. And then also, along with your CV, go and attach a covering letter, because where you are addressing the specific person that placed the ad, and just saying that you are giving them your CV as an attachment. But the cover letter can be a little more personal, and it shows that you're not just one of those people that's going around sending your CV to absolutely everybody, because that's the last thing we want to do. Okay, so that is CV, and that brings us to the end of our presentation. Thank you.